back to Binge Battle. I am your host, Mark Ellis. Thanks for joining us today. If you've seen the show before, you know it's a spirited, I don't even like to use the word debate because we're really just here celebrating some sort of property that we know and love. In this case, it's some of the old and some of the new because The Witcher premiered on Netflix in 2019 with everyone's favorite shredded musclehead. Well, besides me, Henry Cavill playing the title role of, well, he plays Geralt. And then we have a lot of monsters. We have a lot of friends. We have a lot of foes, and some people are both as we meet them along the way. And I use the word people loosely because there's a crap ton of monsters in this show as well. It's a whole lot of fun. Season 2 is just about to debut on Netflix. It's going to be sometime this month. And so we thought, let's talk about The Witcher because that's the new of it. The old is that it is based on a series of best-selling novels that go way, way back. And so we are here to talk about it with two of my friends, and we all go way, way back in this community. And so I am thrilled to bring into the show that could be at least 4 rounds, probably going to be 5 rounds. You know her as that girl, Trish, online, but you also know her as a gaming fan, a tech fan. She covers all of it for TV, internet, and everywhere in between, in all corners of cyberspace. The one, the only, Miss Trisha Hershberger. Trisha, welcome to Binge Battle. How are you, kid?
I am so excited to be on Binge Battles talking about The Witcher today. I brought my medallion. I'm like so ready to go. I just binged the season 1 in its entirety to get ready for season 2. I love the books. I love the games, and I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you for having me. It's just good to see your face.
It is great to see your face, your wonderful Witcher medallion. And I was going to ask you, did you come to the show like when it dropped on Netflix, where you're like, oh, this seems like something I could get into, and then you went back and looked at all the books and video games and all that stuff? Or were you like a huge fan of this property as far back as you can remember, and now we have a TV show to talk about as well?
So I'm a games fan first, and then from the games got into the books, and then from the books got into the series. But I kind of did books and series hand in hand in like a parallel. I started the books probably a year or so before we got the Netflix series. So I'm in the books like just ahead of where the series is at all times as I'm watching it. But I love the Witcher world. I love the continent, you know, in all of its formats. And I honestly, this is one of my favorite series to talk about adaptation, because I think each of the different mediums brought something new to it and enhanced the overall fandom in some way.
And just so long as I can have your word now, before we get into the scoring and the debate portion of the show, when the Magic the Gathering series drops, would you come back to Binge Battle and we can talk? Because I know you and I are both huge fans.
Yes, 100%. I would love to do that. I'm a huge Magic fan.
All right. The booking has been attained. And so now we meet your other very special guest today, the founder and owner of Geek Bomb. She covers everything in the world of entertainment. You've seen her on TV and online. One of my dear friends, with one of her friends at her feet, I believe, is Maude Garrett. Maude, is the puppy in the room?
She is. I can confirm Zelda is. I have like a floofy little bed for her under the desk because she likes to be by my side. The problem is sometimes I wonder if her snores pick up on the microphone. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I didn't hear any.
And I have the same fear as you with Molly the Wonder Dog, who is currently snoozing over yonder. So I don't think we're hearing any dog, although one of the last times we actually got to see each other in person was at the dog park where Zelda and Molly frequent, and they became fast friends. And so that made me feel happy. And so now we get to see each other again after all these many years we've worked together on and off, talking about The Witcher. Were you on the Netflix train, or were you already on the book train well before the series was ever announced?
Listen, I'm on the Henry Cavill train, that's for sure. But I will say, like Trisha, he's my hall pass. Am I allowed to say that? Wait, I'm not married, so.
Bring it on.
Here's a goal. I will say, definitely a fan of the game. Witcher 3 got Game of the Year, and then I think it kind of kept getting Game of the Year, even though it wasn't even out that year. I have played it all the way through twice. It was my COVID cleanser, as I call it, because I know it was a good time, and I know I had fun playing it. So I was like, it had been about 3 or 4 years, and I was able to play it again as if it was for the first time. So when the series came out on Netflix with Henry Cavill, I was like, chef's kiss. Really enjoyed that. Because of the time jumps, though, I went to the book because I do feel like more often than not, the book is always going to be better than the show or the television or the movie, because it explains things in better detail. And so I actually listened to the book series. I found the narrator to be questionable. And Trisha and I actually spoke at length about the book. Trisha liked the book a lot more than I did, just because of this dang narrator. But in terms of sort of like it's like a series of short stories for The Last Wish. And I really enjoyed that. I didn't keep listening to the series though. I kind of stopped after the first one, but I'm super, super pumped for season 2 of The Witcher. And the fact that Henry Cavill loves playing Geralt so much, and he's like, I'm absolutely invested into 7 seasons of this show, makes me even more excited about it all.
Yeah, it seems like we might be seeing him a lot more as Geralt than maybe him as that other character that he's famous for playing. And so we're about to get into it right now here on Binge Battle. Here's how it works. Like I said, we have 4 rounds. Each round is a different topic of debate for our 2 expert panelists talking about The Witcher. I will, at the end of the day, have to betray my friendship to either Maude or Trisha by awarding a point to the other person. But again, it's all just fun and shenanigans here. If we end up tied after 4 rounds, 2-2, we will go to a 5th round tiebreaker. And if you're a fan of Binge Battle, you know that does happen quite often here on the show, as well as spoilers aplenty. So if you've not yet seen the Witcher series on Netflix, or played through any of the video games, or read any of the books or the short stories, you may want to do some research before you, or maybe this debate will get you into the Witcher. And so I really think either way, you're going to be just fine here as we have fun talking about The Witcher season 2, about to drop on Netflix. So if we are ready to go here, I say we get right into it with round 1. I'm hearing a lot of Henry Cavill, rightfully so, because he's great as Geralt, but I'm going to be disappointing both of y'all, because round number 1 is your favorite character. You're not allowed to say Geralt, so it's got to be somebody else. Maude Garrett, I'm going to start with you. Round 1, your favorite character, 1 minute on the clock.
It has to be Jaskier, who in the books and the show, in the game, is called Dandelion. But in this particular iteration, it is Jaskier, the sidekick that joined our favorite mutant on the adventure. And what better sidekick to have to a monosyllabic beast hunter that barely utters a word? It has to be the bard that won't shut up. They are such a good combination. I love their dynamic together. And I truly think that Jaskier brings so much to this duo. You have to admit, at the end of the day, Geralt is a paid for hire beast hunter. And in that day and age, there's no internet ads. It is all word of mouth. But because Geralt hardly speaks, he's not really advocating what he does. So enter Jaskier, who realizes that this is just all about marketing, and he is a one-man marketing team that's very good at his job. And by creating all of these songs to explain the heroics of what Geralt does, he actually makes Geralt's reputation so much higher and more in demand, and with those powers combined can make a lot more money. Geralt is also a lone wolf. He's spent a lot of time traveling on his own, and he doesn't really let people into his life. He's not capable of human emotion, including usually like trust and love. And yet Jaskier managed to win him over really quickly. Even though Geralt's kind of like, you're a little annoying and you do talk a lot, he really kind of forged this loyalty and bond with Geralt, to the point that whenever Jaskier's reputation is on the line, his safety is on the line, or his life is on the line, Geralt goes above and beyond the call of duty to protect his newfound best friend. And that's something that is kind of out of the structure of a Witcher, which is everything has its price. And they usually don't do a damn thing to get their hands dirty unless there's gold on the table. So for Geralt to go, to balls, attend balls that Jaskier is playing at, to step in case someone gets angry at him for whatever reason, we don't know. Whatever it is, like, Geralt's going to be there. Like, he made a deal with Yennefer to save Jaskier's life. Was he the one that risked his life? Yes, but he's, making sure that he's saving his life as well. And also, just from like a watching the show point of view, I felt that there was such good balance and that it breaks the tension. And Jaskier's humor is just so delightful for the show. And if you didn't have Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, the song, in your head for days, weeks, if not months after that show, the guy can sing. Jaskier's got a set of pipes on him that is just, every time he sings, whether it's accompanied or just, on his own, it's just delightful. So that's why Yasky is my favorite character.
It's a hell of a performance by the wonderful Joey Beatty. You're kind of describing the life of a comic on the road here. You just go around, you don't really say too much, so you need somebody to hype you up. We could all use the Yasky in our lives. But now we go to Trisha Hershberger, who has her favorite character in The Witcher, not named Geralt. Who you got?
Not named girl. No, I love Jaskier. Don't get me wrong. But for me, my favorite character of the series has to be Yennefer. She is so very human and layered. And I'm not just talking about the transformation we see happen with her, but I'm talking about every step of the way, even after she gets that power and that newfound look, right, that comes with that. Like when we see her frustrated and jealous as she's traveling with Queen Kalis, I believe, Kalis or Callis, and the baby, and she's traveling with her and feeling like this jealousy and this kind of, yes, she's learned the political game, but all of this power hasn't delivered on the promise that she hoped that it would. And then the assassin, spoiler alerts, if you haven't seen season 1, she's traveling with the queen and the baby. Assassin comes in and we watch Yennefer go through, do I even want to save her? Okay, it's my job, I will. But then when the queen turns super jerky, then we watch Yennefer go through this very, very complicated kind of mind screw, if you will, of, fine, I guess I don't want to save her. But the baby's innocent. All right, I'll try to save the baby. And then we watch her go through this roller coaster of emotions as she is, trying her best and using all her power, but realizing that as powerful as she is, in some ways, and in my opinion, it's, herself getting in the way a lot of the time, she's not quite as infallible as she thinks she is. And she goes through many moments like that throughout the books, throughout the games, throughout the series, where we are learning who she is with her. And I think this kind of roller coaster of consequences that we get to watch feels very real and very human. I also think Anya Chalotra, and I hope I said her last name correctly, Maude could probably correct me on that one. I think that she nails the versatility of Yen and the power of Yen and the vulnerability of Yen all at the same time, which is no easy feat. And I know going into the series, a lot of people were really nervous about that, to kind of see how that would be handled. I also really like the character of Yennefer because I'm someone who is very, very into dark fantasy lore, and having your magic user specifically be incredibly powerful in multiple ways. And Yen is that. She's equally as powerful in a battle of wits as she is in combat. And, you might go into this series, if you don't know anything about The Witcher, thinking that Geralt is the one who's going to win all of the physical combat hands down. But I mean, at the Battle of Sodden Hill, we watch Yennefer take down the entire Nilfgaardian army solo. Like, she is not to be messed with. And she has no qualms taking on damage herself to get stuff done, which also, as a woman who likes to get stuff done, I can appreciate in Yennefer that she's like, whatever I have to do to make sure that, like, I am the queen in this moment right now, and I am the all-powerful one. Like, book fans know that Yennefer is basically like Jean Grey with Dark Phoenix inside. And I think in this series, we are now, just getting to the cusp. Like at the end of season 1, we're just getting to the cusp where that's becoming unleashed. And I can't wait to see what happens with season 2. I also want to throw in there, I'm probably out of time, but I also want to throw in there with Yennefer that she's politically super aware and powerful as well. So not just kind of the wits and the manipulation that's on that side, not just the physical combat, but also politically very strategic. She's very powerful. She knows how to play the game. She's been doing it for a really long time. And she is sassy. She comes back with those quips. Sometimes to a fault, she's manipulative and sassy, but we get to see her heart underneath that stony exterior. And for me, when I look at the series as a whole, and I think what really embodies this world of The Witcher, what characters do a really good job of showcasing us who that is, I think Yen and Geralt are kind of the yin to each other's yang. And so if I have to choose a character that's not Geralt, I'm going Yennefer.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Binge Battle. Let's see more of what our guests had to say about today's topic. Yeah, I would say Yennefer probably be really good on this show as well. And if she was playing Magic the Gathering, she'd probably be a fan of the black and blue deck. So let's go back over to you, Maude Garrett. Just a quick rebuttal rounds here, 30 seconds or less for each of you. You can stump for your character choice more. You can go against your opponent a little bit. Maude Garrett, how do you want to take it?
So I'm actually, from the video games, there's a big debate. Are you Team Yen or Team Triss? I was always, without a fault, Team Yen. But not in this show. She is so selfish. She is so self-centered. She's so hungry for power that once she gets a taste for it, she's willing to even sacrifice parts of herself in like a moment of where hindsight doesn't exist to try and obtain that power. She is manipulative. She is politically based, but it's all for her own gain. She's willing to try to possess a djinn so that she can get wishes to even further her own gain. The fact that Geralt had to say to her, she's not a good mum, which I have to agree with because she killed a baby and she killed her mother to get the baby. She tried to save the baby. That baby died in her care. And her number one job was to protect this queen. And because the assassin was too hard, she's like, you know what? I can actually dispose of this woman so I can steal her baby. And the baby still died. This is a woman who should not be having children. She should not be in the care of anyone else. She will protect herself first every single time. And she's not a good person to even Geralt. So I don't think this version of Yen is my girl. And I can't support her. And she's absolutely not my favorite.
All right. I know she's a quarter elf, but Maude's saying just a bad overall human being here. So, Trisha, do you want to defend Yen a little bit more? Or do you want to talk about Maude's character choice? It's up to you.
Well, I mean, I would say to say that she killed the queen and killed the baby is an incredible oversimplification of everything that goes on in that scene. So I will definitely leave it at that and ask you, the viewers who are watching this, to please rewatch that scene on your own and not just take Maude's word for that one. When it comes to Jaskier, it's so easy to say the comic relief guy is my favorite character, especially when you're in a dark fantasy world. I do love Jaskier. When you're talking about favorite character of the series, to me, it's about which character really says this is the Witcher, like a character that you can look at and say, I am fully engrossed in this world. I know this world. I know where we're going with this story. And Jaskier is such a sideline character on that it's hard to argue that is that character. And I will, again, just because Maude tore down Yennefer in such a mean way. What did Yennefer do to you, Maude? But I will go again that there is a heart in Anya Chalotra's portrayal of this character underneath. And I think what Maude was speaking to is that icy cold exterior that we see in the front and that we see a lot in the early episodes of season 1, but definitely not where we end up. And I do think, when it comes to acting, what you're really looking for, there are multiple levels. And to kind of straw man that performance to just one of those levels is unfair to Anya.
All right. So we got some heat coming now. This is good stuff. So now we just have a closing sort of statement here from each of you. I know it's tough to take all of these arguments, just summarize it nice and succinctly. Maude Garrett, you're up first.
The question is the favorite character, and the comic relief who is fun, who lifts up Geralt, who is, the one who sings and is jovial and is fun and great. That's what a favorite is all about. This isn't the best written character, the character with the biggest growth. It's none of those things. It's a favorite character. And because of Yen's initial kind of thirst for power in a way that hurts many, many other people, and she's so tunnel visioned in a negative way, she doesn't score a favorite title for me. It has to be Jaskier, who is hands down the favorite character.
All right. Favorite character for Trisha was Yen. So you have the last word in round 1.
When you go to watch or read or play The Witcher, you are not going to find a comedic sitcom. That's not why you're going to this series. You are going to this series for power. You are going to this series for darkness, for moral gray areas and battles. And Yennefer really embodies that.
This is why I love hosting the show. And now all the pressure's on me. And this is the hardest part for me, is because I got to pick between these two great arguments. And so if I'm looking at who my favorite character is, that was the question, favorite character. And so Jaskier, obviously a great choice, just because you need some sort of levity in this show. As I like saying, there's not going to be a lot of slipping on banana peels in The Witcher, but you just want some yucks where you can get them. And so Jaskier certainly providing some of that light. But as far as a favorite character goes, it could also be interpreted as who is the character that has the most to them, that has the most layers, that has the most interesting emotional depth, who has the most promise of future adventures. And so if the show's called The Witcher, as much as even this, it feels like I'm ruling against myself here. I love a good comic relief. It's kind of how I made a living, but I think that I have to go with my favorite character being the more interesting character. And so I'm with y'all. If I can't pick Geralt, I'm probably going slightly towards Yennefer. And having said that, I probably am never going to get to hang with Jaskier in real life, which really kills me to my core. But I'm going to go with Yennefer in round one. So Trisha gets on the board, gets the point, and we are off and running here on the Witcher Binge Battle.
I have to say, though, it's such a matter of personal preference, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we could all sit down and watch any show and have 3 different favorite characters just based on our personality and what we seek out of our entertainment. So that, I feel like, was a really subjective one and very well argued on Maude's part.
I'm about to defend Yennefer in about 3 questions.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Binge Battle. Let's see more of what our guests had to say about today's topic. Well, that's what we're here to do. And so if you thought it was tough to pick your favorite character, then I'm just going to throw another one at you because we're going to round 2 with our favorite monster. Favorite monster. Trisha, you won round number 1, so I'm going to give you the honor. You get to kick off in round 2. Your favorite monster in a minute or less.
Okay, my favorite monster in this series specifically is the dragon. And I know people are going to say, oh, every fantasy story, someone's got to love a dragon because dragons are like where it's at. I have dragons on my wall behind me. Like, obviously, I'm a big fan. But why I picked the dragon for the Netflix series season 1 specifically is because, yes, we all know dragons are really fantastic in literature and fantasy generally. But to see one of the most intelligent of the species, the gold dragon, take human form in Borch to journey with and get to know Geralt and the entire party, all in this master plan of protecting his youth, was super cool to see. Now, you guys are going to start to realize that I have a very specific character type that I'm drawn to, and it's like the very intellectual, complexity, manipulative, powerful characters. So much the same as Yennefer, but this is what I like. So I feel like when we see the gold dragon in this series, we're seeing not only like a conniving, cultivating plan of very, very many intricate steps and like predicting the future of what people are going to do, but he also has like the ability to do exactly that, like determine and potentially influence the whims of his companions to do his will. He also absolutely knows his strength, and at any point in all of that could have just dragoned it out and murderballed everybody, and then his youth are totally protected. But that's not how he wants to play it. He doesn't need to throw around his power to achieve his goals. It's understated, it's smart, and it's ridiculously overpowered. And that's why I chose the dragon for favorite monster in The Witcher season 1.
In any fantasy story, you got to have a dragon in there somewhere. So Maude, your counter to the dragon.
I know Trisha loves dragons. Her fans are called the Dragon Riders. I will say, though, when you look at the plethora of beasts and monsters that show up in The Witcher, I find the most frightening is actually not the biggest and the baddest. It's the Doppler. And a Doppler is a body switcher. And I think what's so interesting about body switchers and body swappers in this particular instance is this political intrigue. You have a key player that can become anybody. In the games and in the books, you'll have people that they are mercenaries. So if you've got the gold, they will do thy bidding and become, whether it's a relative, whether it's someone in a regal sense, anyone that you want to murder, you can replace them with someone. The power that you can have with a Doppler is almost endless. And I think the scariest part is as soon as they take on the form of who they're going to become, it isn't just a physical swap. They also adopt every single memory that that person has ever had from the moment leading up to that swap. So I think that, you know, when you look at the body swap or the body snatcher as a whole, it's this thing in literature or in whatever it is, in fiction, where if it's happening, you ask a question to try and determine if they know the answer. Because if it's something sort of unique, then it's like, that has to be them. Okay, cool. But the Doppler has all that information. So they can absolutely accurately and convincingly become another person and have their entire memories to back that up and to make that transition flawless. And I think in this sense where Mouse Hunt, what was his name? Mousy, who is the only person that Ciri trusted pretty much in the world, the Doppler was able to become him to lure Ciri out of an impenetrable forest fortress to take her to the enemy. And I think that when you kind of really scratch your brain and think of how you can use a Doppler or what a Doppler could do for survival, to live, to mess with politics, in war, you name it, I think they are the most frightening but my favorite monster, and how the Witcher lore has just adapted that to make it even more powerful, to me is my favorite.
All right, Maude Garrett, you heard it here first, somehow forcing me to trust humanity even less than I already do. So it is one, we got a Doppler, we got a dragon here. It's a nice wide swath of monsters. So Trisha, you get a 30-second rebuttal, either stumping for the dragon or going against the Doppler.
I mean, neither, because the Doppler's awesome. So I'm gonna, yes, Maude, the Doppler is awesome. I was trying to fact check over here on the side whether or not they copy all the memories. And apparently that is hotly debated in the Witcher fandom, because I had not heard that, but I was like, that's super cool if that's true. And then some people are like, oh, they only copy recent memories, not old memories, and that's how you can catch and find out that it's a Doppler. So that's hotly debated, but Dopplers are super rad. Most Dopplers, and you could say that this adds to the argument or takes away from it, depending what you're looking for in your favorite monster. Most Dopplers are very gentle and kind-natured. So generally in the universe of The Witcher, Dopplers are not really considered a threat because they're kind-hearted, wonderful, peaceful little creatures. That is true. But the one that we encounter in the series obviously is not. There are some that we encounter, but it's a more rare thing. Like I said, I do think Dopplers are really cool. I think Strigas are really cool. I think as fans of The Witcher in any of its formats, you get introduced to a lot of these really awesome creatures. But for me, the favorite's got to be the dragon, just because of the way that it's portrayed and seeing kind of the complete understatedness of the power and how many chess moves ahead the gold dragon is from the rest of our party, who, by the way, are not nitwits. The rest of our party, we've got Geralt, we've got Yen, we've got Jaskier, we've got all these other troops, we've got the dwarves, we've got all of these people in this adventuring party. And our golden dragon is like 50 steps ahead of them at every turn. And to me, that was just so interesting and fascinating to watch play out. It was cool to watch it play out when I read the books. It was cool to watch it play out in the series. And I just think it's a really nice world informing creature for us to get to experience.
All right, Maude, you can open your argument by saying that most dragons are cute and cuddly, as I want them to be. I don't know if they are, but I want them to be that.
With the whole Dopplers are notoriously cute and innocent, that's not true. They are hunted because they can be exploited and because they are so dangerous. So a lot of the time, the Doppler is just trying to survive, but because some of them actually know their worth, they use that exploitation to absolutely make bank. Speaking of bank, I love Trisha says, I love how this dragon's depicted. Same. An old white rich guy, that's how I love my dragons too. Flanked by two women doing his bidding. He's really representing that dragon. Also, Geralt totally nipped the rumor about the fertility. If you get a dragon's heart, it will able to help with fertility, which is the only reason why Yennefer's there in the first place. Geralt quickly nipped that in the bud, as it is false and not true. So the heart can't even help. So that was no good as well. Also, dragons are super rare in this world. And episode 6 was my least favorite. And it basically says that it proves that if you need to deal with a dragon, there isn't a shortage of people that are willing to take care of it. So people want to kill the dragon. This doesn't mean that it's my favorite. Out of all the dragons out there, we're talking Maleficent, we're talking all the different dragons. This is the most underwhelming one. It felt like a Hercules episode.
But now we do careen into final argument time, going first to Trisha, the lover of dragons.
I am the lover of dragons, but honestly, I just think seeing a gold dragon portrayed in a way that he's like 45 steps ahead of everyone else, whether he chooses to take human form as a male or a female is irrelevant to me. He can take human form. And also just a quick fact check there from the fandom wiki on the Doppler. Dopplers are exceptionally kind and gentle beings in general, for whom the ability of metamorphosis serves as compensation for lack of aggression, fangs, and claws.
Okay.
But in the show, they had fangs.
Doing some fact checking. There's probably some little fangs going on in the Doppler. And look, I'm kind of gentle. I can be bought too. So, Maude Garrett, you have the last word in round 2 for Dopplers.
Trisha's just making my argument. The fact that Dopplers can be used and exploited and absolutely change the shift in politics in any sense. They are so clever and dangerous, and they're able to absorb memories of the person they're taking over. And they're really sweet and lovely. Thank you for making that point for me. It definitely makes them even better and my favorite.
Sweet and lovely can certainly be manipulated to a point. And again, look, I don't want to beat anybody over the head with Magic the Gathering references, but we have Vesuvian Doppelganger, and then we have Shivan Dragon, two of the best rare cards from the revised edition. Who do you take? Well, Dragon, I mean, you can overpower with force, but I like Trisha's argument that this Dragon is also overpowering with their ability to think steps and steps ahead of human counterparts. But whereas the Dragon can use force or can use some strategy, Maude depicting the Doppler as just this conniving, I think the exact phrasing that won me over was just the political implications of what that could mean if you were pretending to be somebody, regardless of whether you get their entire spectrum of memories or it's more of like a herbal substance short-term memory sort of thing. You still get some valuable information, and you can faithfully impersonate somebody much to a mischievous end. And so, as fascinated as we all are with dragons and every fantasy lore going back through the ages, I'm going Doppler as the best monster-ish. Even though they're cute and they're cuddly and most of them mean well, I'm going Doppler for favorite monster in round two. Sorry to all the Dopplers watching that I called you monsters. It's a very broad term. It can be good or bad. Hey everyone, welcome back to Binge Battle. Let's see more of what our guests had to say about today's topic. It's 1-1 here, and we got us a ball game, folks. We're going right into round number 3, which is your favorite episode. What is the best episode of season 1? Maude Garrett, we are going to start with you, and I have a feeling you're not going to say episode 6.
No, that was the weakest one. No, for me, it is the season finale, episode 8, called Much More. This episode literally takes all of the 7 episodes, the different timelines, all of the history, the characters that we're learning about, and puts them all together in an epic battle, not just a sword fight. There is an epic sword fight, but we are talking a full-on battle. If you like Two Towers on Lord of the Rings because of that incredible battle, this is what you get here. And not only do we have the soldiers, but we have mages, and we are finally seeing a group of mages at their full potential and seeing all that different types of magic, when just previously we'd seen a little spell here and there. We'd seen a portal be created. We saw a rock float. We are now seeing what mages are capable of, and it is brilliant and it is brutal. Not only that, but we get Geralt's history. We realize who he is. He has a mother who was a sorceress. Why the law of surprise was the reason why he became a witcher in the first place. The fact that he hasn't mended that. We are really honing in on what destiny is and what destiny means, which has been a running theme that some people haven't grasped. Hello, Calanthe. But I think that knowing Geralt's past, seeing this gigantic battle come to head with many players on the chessboard moving and, you know, showing what they're capable of, the different types of magic, the fact that we had, is it Venegoth or something? Venegort, whatever his name is. He can regenerate his sword. So he'll throw it and then he'll, you know, summon another one. Little things like that. But we've got Triss who's building, had the mushrooms explode out into the forest with the poisonous sporous gas that killed a bunch of them and died. Like another woman just had them all crumple to the ground. Like the way that these mages took out the soldiers. But then you also had Fringilla who had this box and you're like, what's in the box? Turns out they're these like mind-wielding little metal bugs, little slidey slimes that would slide into the ear, and then like she had control over them. So much different magic, so well done. And to really ramp up Trisha's point on Yennefer, she cast Flame so far and wide that she took out pretty much the remainder of the Nilfgaardian army. This episode had everything, and it ended on a cliffhanger that made you want to have season 2 so hard. And that was the fact that Geralt and Ciri finally, after 8 episodes, meet up with one another. And the first thing that she says is, "Who is Yennefer?" Oh, that is just beautiful. So the finale was the best one, hands down.
Yeah, if you're a dude, that's not the first question you want to hear. You've been waiting for this destiny moment for a long time. That is not the first question you want to hear. A lot of bugs going into a lot of ears. I believe Vilgefortz is the name. It's there's a lot of really complicated B names in there. So let's just let Maude do some research on names, and we'll go to Trisha for your minute argument. What's your best episode of season 1, Trisha?
I'm going with Of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials. Burials, I can talk today. Burials! So I absolutely adore this episode. I feel like this is a bit of an underdog answer because anytime in a trilogy or in a season when people say, what's the best episode? Everyone always goes for the climax where all the timelines converge and all the big stuff happens. But I'm going with the underdog here. I love this episode because, and to throw to Maude's point earlier about Jaskier, here we get to see Geralt and Jaskier for one of the first times where Geralt actually gives in and you peek through his cold hard exterior and realize that he actually kind of likes Jaskier, which is such a beautiful moment when Geralt agrees to go and essentially be his bodyguard. He's going to a party to be Jaskier's bodyguard, which if you're just following the grunting up until then and you're new to the series, you're like, wait, hold up, what's even happening? So we get this beautiful glimpse into their friendship in this episode that I love. And I think that friendship is so important to the series and how they interact outside of their typical bickering. This is also the episode where we get to see where Geralt's kind of law of morality, if you will, what guides him. We get to see this in play. Now, up until this point in the series, I feel like we see a lot of Geralt being the monster hunter for hire. This is who he is. And we start to see things like, he's not for hire for people. And he starts to kind of lay out his code for us. But it's really interesting when in this episode, he's specifically sitting next to Calanthe and you watch his banter with Calanthe. He is not, he is not bowing to her. When she pushes him on issues, he's not giving in at all. And we're slowly getting these beautiful puzzle pieces of what Geralt stands for, what makes him different than maybe other witchers that they might have encountered in this world. And when it comes down to it, that moment where he decides to jump into the battle and side with Dooney, our beautiful lover hedgehog, when he decides to jump in and fight for Dooney, and just completely disobey what Queen Calanthe wants him to do, that is ballsy, and it speaks volumes about who Geralt is as our main protagonist throughout this series. He has his own set of standards, right? And then that whole moment where he does that and stands up for the law of surprise and destiny, this is where we set the stage for everything that is to follow, for Geralt and Ciri's relationship, for when we find out about Geralt's mom later in season 8. Like, we're setting the stage for why destiny is important. We find out here, what is the law of surprise? Should we care? Who does care? Geralt cares. And in that moment, we find out that Pavetta is then also pregnant. So it's the whole like, oh my God, like that. It's when everything, like the bomb drops, everything goes off and everything is set into motion. Speaking of Pavetta, when we see her use her power in this episode, it informs so much about why Ciri is so important to the series. And I feel like people who play the game know how powerful Cirilla is, but in the series, it's still kind of very like, oh, why is Ciri important? Do we know? This is the episode where we see it through Pavetta. We see what Pavetta can do, and then we know, as a viewer of the series, you know what Ciri could be capable of. And I just think it speaks volumes for that. And yeah, I mean, the Yen and Queen Kalis scene that I talked about at length earlier happens in this episode. And I do think that when Yen finds the moment that she has fought so hard, and the child who she's decided to try to save, still, despite her best efforts, does not survive that encounter. I think watching that entire transformation of, do I even want to help this woman, to, yes, I'll help her because it's my duty, to know I actually am going to be independent, and screw her, she's been so mean to me, but hold on, this baby's innocent. okay, I'm going to fight with everything I can to save the baby, to still have that taken away from her is such a beautiful, complex moment for Yennefer as well. So for many, many reasons, I think that Of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials does not deserve, deserves a lot more love than I say that it normally
There's a lot
does.
in it. It's really it's one of the first times that the flower known as the Witcher series, at least for me, was in full bloom. And you really got a lot of storylines that all started to make sense and connect up. And then you also have episode 8, which is the final episode, which is the finale that did not disappoint and made us very hungry for season 2. So it's a tough call here. Maude Garrett, go back to you for a quick rebuttal.
If you do any sort of research online across the board, this is the highest and best rated episode 8, the finale. So just from like a critical point of view, it is actually has already been decided that it's the best, because we're not talking favorite here. We are talking best. And so that will do it. The problem with Of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials, the issue that I had, it's actually really confusing. The fact that it comes in at episode 4, when we've never met Pavati before, we've met Sorella, it doesn't really kind of aid the timeline jump. The Law of Surprise was a lot of information at once. When I first saw that episode, I finished it very confused. I felt that it didn't really handle the mass amount of information at the right particular time. Maybe it would have been better suited for episode 5, just having a little bit more history, a little bit more introduction to this new era. And maybe it focused a little bit too much on Geralt instead of where we were at with Calanthe's empire and where Sintra was. I just felt that if you're looking at an arc, this one kind of dropped a little bit. Like it just wasn't a smooth placement in the entire arc. This time around, the second time with subtitles on, I was able to kind of pick it up better, but I'd also read the book at this stage as well. So I think that actually harmed the episode more than it uplifted it. Also, it was really confusing with Dooney. How was he cursed? Was it the fact that he saved the king? Was he Porcupine at that stage as well? That was just an extra layer that, again, wasn't really clear to me. And it was just a really confusing episode. This episode, again, reminds me that I'm consistently disappointed by Calanthe. Any scene that she's in this particular episode is just like white-knuckled. And also, I feel bad doing this, but Trisha, as a mother, how could you have a favorite episode where a woman kills a mother that she was trying to protect to steal her child, which still dies?
Again, she does not kill the mother. That is a 100% straw man argument, and I am calling you out on it.
Sacrifices a woman. She didn't sacrifice herself to save them. She sacrificed them.
I'll give Trisha. I'll hand Trisha back the ball. So Trisha, you can rebut to that to invoking the mom card. However you want to take it. Go ahead.
I played it.
I mean, yes, a child died in it. Just because I'm a parent does not mean that I'm like, worst episode ever. As I explained previously, I think that Yen went through a very, very complex series of emotions here, and she did give it her all to save that child. So that like playing the as a mother card thing, I feel like is 100% irrelevant. It's very, very well explained in both the book and the series, in my opinion. So I would say, unless you like forgot, and honestly, not just a chunk of the book, but one of the most important chunks of the book, like the law of surprise and destiny and understanding what that is integral to understanding everything that happens in The Witcher. So if you don't get that part, that's not great. So to those of you out there, if you watched it and you were confused, watch it again. It's in my opinion, it is not confusing what happens with Dooney. Dooney was cursed. He was not a hedgehog prior to being cursed. He was cursed to become a hedgehog. And that's why when Geralt in the episode says, this is not a monster, this is a cursed man. And it comes out that Calanthe knew that the whole time, which yes, is frustrating as an audience member to watch, but I love the portrayal. I think she does a great job showing a very flawed character. It's not how we as the audience want her to react, knowing the information that we know, but that is that character. And I think she does a very good job of portraying it. I mean, I think that knowing the law of, knowing the destiny, knowing the law of surprise, knowing how Geralt gets his child of surprise, watching all of that unfold before us is fascinating. And it's like The Witcher 101. So you have to get that part.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Binge Battle. Let's see more of what our guests had to say about today's topic. Okay, strong argument, strong rebuttal here, and now we just have that time for the final statement. So it's got to be quick, but I know we're getting heated here in your best episode. This is not the category I thought we were going to get the most debate, but man, it's been a good one so far. So I do not know which way to go. I will say I encourage everybody to watch The Witcher with subtitles if you're having trouble, because subtitles have been such a godsend for so many people for a great variety of reasons. And I highly encourage you. You're watching something like that, subtitles can help. Let's go to the final argument. Maude Garrett, you're up first.
Look, I may be blonde, but we are talking about the show as a standalone, not having the information from the book, but just the show. And so I feel like if you have to watch an episode twice, it's not the best. Whether it was the position of the show, irrelevant. Well, not irrelevant. It could be that. Who knows? You're talking about the seed being planted. I am talking about the episode where everything blossoms. It's all full bloom. It's not one element of an entire show that's been introduced. It is all the things that have been planted coming to fruition. We are talking about Yen's discovery, where for the first time she does a selfless thing, and we see the full extent of her power. The whole time, Ciri from episode 1 has to find Geralt of Rivia. She does in this episode. We see sword fights. We see Nilfgaard trying to take over, and this small handful of mages giving it everything that they've got. We explore new types of magic, and I'm the kind of fantasy lover that when you drop these sorts of big boom spells, you're just sitting there holding your face because it is so awesome. It is the most satisfying episode. It is by far the best one. And it just ties it up so nicely, and then includes a cliffhanger for season 2, which I'm excited for. It's the best episode.
All right, you heard it from Maude Garrett, face-holdingly awesome. So let's go to Trisha Hershberger for your final argument about episode 4.
I mean, it is face-holdingly awesome. It's the season finale. I feel like the season finale is an easy grab. Anytime you're asked in a season, what's the best episode? Everybody's going to say, watch the first episode, watch the last episode, because the last episode's where it all culminates. I do feel like that's a given. When I think about the world of The Witcher as a whole, again, I'm going back to understanding the law of surprise, understanding why destiny is important, understanding that Ciri is Geralt's destiny, and all of that happens in this episode. Plus, I mean, you want to talk about super powerful face-holding magical moments. Pavetta freaking out when the love of her life is about to die and no one being able to do anything about it. That's a face-holding magic moment as well. So I feel like my strategy of, I don't want to tear down Maude's answers, because I also love that part of The Witcher. I love all parts of The Witcher. So I'm going into this just saying that, like, this is what I love. And if everybody watching that agrees with me, then awesome, because we're all fans of The Witcher.
Well, we are always going to have Maude Garrett to thank. Anytime in the future you see on a movie poster that this movie's face-holdingly awesome, we owe a little thank you to Maude Garrett. I am going to make an interesting ruling here, because I do feel like episode 8 might be the best for a relative newbie to The Witcher like myself, for a lot of the reasons that both Maude and Trisha highlighted, that you're watching the series for the first time and you want that huge climactic battle scene. You want that, ooh, will they, won't they, with Destiny. But then you also have people who've been fans of The Witcher for years, if not decades. And I think that episode 4 might have packed in the most for them. And so it's also convenient that I now get to invoke my own law of surprise by doing the following. We're a little short on time here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this round a tie, not because I can't make a decision, but because I both feel like you argued valiantly for your very separate points. And it also conveniently makes us tied at 2 apiece as we head into what will be the final round. And it's going to be a quick one. It's going to be a speed round, and that is going to be round 4. Here we go. We're tied up. The best moment in the show. What is the best moment in The Witcher? Now, here's how a speed round works. Again, because we're a little short on time, we each only have 1 minute to make an argument. Then I have all the pressure on myself. And so it's Maude Garrett, it's Trisha Hershberger, 2 of my dear friends who love the Witcher series, as well as a lot of the fare that inspired it. So I'm going to go with you first, Trisha. You get to argue for your favorite moment in the show, or you can define it as best moment. That's totally up to you. You have a minute or less.
Okay, I'm a huge sucker for awesome fight choreography. So I'm going with the Geralt versus Renfrey fight in episode 1. This fight had us on the edge of our seat. It was so glorious to watch. Action fans coming from the games are going to feel right at home here. The shots were fantastic. There were long, continuous shots that seemed to go on forever, mixed with expert choreo and hand-to-hand combat and quick dynamic camera movements. That 360-degree shot of Geralt just swatting away the crossbow arrows showed us how quick and what a formidable fighter he really is. Then he takes down all of Renfrey's men. We find out how he became the Butcher of Blaviken, which is the most tragic title ever because he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to fight. We don't want to watch Renfrey and Geralt battle it out to the death, but that's what ends up happening. And it sets the scene to tell us that this world of The Witcher, the continent, it's a world that is not fair and really dark stuff happens. And it establishes the entire setting for the show, plus gives us the action that everyone's coming for, looking for like a dark fantasy adventure series. Renfrey wants him to choose the lesser of two evils, right? She was ready to die to convince Geralt to kill Stregobor for her. And when he won, he gave her the chance to walk away and she still wouldn't do it. He knew it was going to be him or her. He had to do it. And then he lives with the title, the Butcher of Blaviken, forever.
Forever. Okay, that is Trisha Hershberger's argument, and that's all the time she gets. So now, Maude Garrett, you're on the clock for the round that will determine the match. Have at it, your best moment.
Yennefer's transformation is the pinnacle of the show for so many reasons, but let's just take into consideration Yennefer, obviously, because of apparently she was cursed with her quarter elf blood. She was a hunchback. She had a jaw deformity. She was bullied. She was ridiculed. She was sold by her father for less than the price of a pig. She was bought by Tissaia to study in mage arts, to learn about magic. She not only progresses through college, but she gets a taste of being good enough for the first time ever. I will say a highlight for me, especially for the disabled community, is that she found a lover in her original, with her state, which I think celebrates sort of disability in a particular way. The problem with Yennefer, though, is that she gets a taste of power and she cannot stop and she wants more and she sacrifices literally her fertility organs to try and have, a chance at this. She realizes that she needs to look perfect because as a woman, you need to have any kind of understanding and placement in politics. The way that the transformation takes place, though, is so stunning because you have someone who is literally using paint onto her body like an artist to reconfigurate and to remold her into it. So when you see her before and then when you see her walk away after, it's a very different person. And that confidence that comes with it is when Yennefer's arc just hits the ground running and you see her vulnerability in that moment. Her pain can't be numbed. She has to take on all of the agony to get through to the other side. I will say that with the Geralt versus Renfrey, I prefer it where if Geralt's going to fight a woman, it's a Striga. And actually, he ended up saving her and he killed a woman in that moment. So for me, not my favorite moment, but I'm going to go Yen's transformation because it is actually women empowerment.
All right.
I would like to call it unfair that Maude snuck in a rebuttal.
We can have the court disavow the rebuttal.
I played the feminist card too.
Struck that from the record. Well, look, I'm going to feel awful regardless of who I rule for here because I feel both of these moments were so integral to the show because you have one moment where it's the full realization of a character where Maude's talking about with the transformation, but then you also have the fight, the battle, the fight that initiates us into the show. And I think that we're kind of even there because a lot of folks like me are looking for that epic thing to see in the very first episode that's going to get us hooked on for the rest of time. And then we also meet Yennefer and we see what, even just watching the show today, I'm sure a lot of people realize just what a complex person whose personality you can really see. It depends on what prism you're looking at it through, who this figure really is in the lore. And so I think that where my point lies here is that the fight between Geralt and Renfrey, it was so well done, and it also introduced us to the show. Yennefer's transformation then also gave us such deep knowledge and mythology as to who that character is and everything that she's gone through. So I think the tiebreaker here for me goes to the fact that, I mean, like literally as Renfrey's, the last thing that Renfrey's able to convey is that there is this person in the woods that's about destiny, and you just hear that and you're like, oh my God, what do we what are we in for here? And it became tangible, and it became something for viewers to seek after for the rest of season 1. And so by the thinnest of margins, after 2 face-holding arguments, I think I'm going to have to give it to Trisha Hershberger here for the point. And Trisha, after what Christian Rubalcaba and I've been through a lot of these binge battles now, this has been the hardest fought. This has been the one where the gloves came off. But look, we're still friends at the end of it. I hope I can say that. Your champion today is Trisha Hershberger, but you're both fantastic warriors in my book. So Trisha, you have the honor to let everybody know the stuff you're working on right now and some streaming recommendations for everybody. We might have some time off coming up here soon. So what are some shows, some movies do you think the folks need to check out?
We love The Witcher. The things I would say to check out, I'm watching Wheel of Time right now, if you're into fantasy. And Maude, I know you have read these books, yeah? I actually have not read these books yet. So I'm coming into this series as someone who's not read the books, and I'm fully in. I'm totally caught up. I'm fully in. The pilot, I feel like, was a little rough. So get through the pilot. But then after that, I feel like you're going to be super hooked. Arcane is good. I'm not fully caught up on that. And I'm watching Marvel's Hawkeye. Marvel's Hawkeye is a delightful Christmas romp. Y'all get on in that if you have some time. So thank you guys so much for having me. Those are the things that I'm watching. And yeah, that's what you asked, right? Was there another part to your question?
Well, everybody can find on social media at That Girl Trish. Just take the I out of GRL, right? That Girl
Yes.
Trish, and that's where you can follow Trisha on all her many exploits through the world of gaming and tech and entertainment. And so now we have Maude Garrett, who is simply at Maude Garrett on most social media platforms. Maude, you did come out on top. As far as I'm concerned today, it's just that Trisha was the champion. Don't worry about any of that. Just focus on how much fun you had today and some streaming recommendations and what you're working on.
Streaming recommendations. I've gotten back into anime big time. I'm watching My Hero Academia. I've watched 5 seasons and 3 movies in 2 weeks. I can't come up for air. It was a real struggle to actually come onto this show because I can't stop watching it. So any anime recs, please hit me up. I'm in big time. I'm going to the theater to watch the latest movie, and I'm so excited about that. Also with Wheel of Time, fantastic. I love it. They are condensing big time, and it really actually helps the TV show. The books are a mission, but Rosamund Pike actually narrates the Audible version, and it's because of the release of the show, and she is a godsend. So if you want to try and listen to the book, that is how I would recommend doing it if you're into it big time. And also Arcane has revolutionized video game media, becoming a different medium completely.
That is the creator and owner of Geek Bomb, Maude Garrett. You have Trisha Hershberger here as our champion today. If you haven't seen The Witcher and you watch this episode, you still have a lot more in store for you. There's a whole lot of twists and turns and surprises that series takes. And from what I'm hearing, the books and the short stories and the games and all of that takes. So I welcome everybody to get deeper into the world of The Witcher. Make sure that you are following Maude Garrett and Trisha Hershberger wherever they have their next fun exploits and coverage and all the great things that they're doing in this fun community. That does it for our show today here on Binge Battle. For everybody here at Rotten Tomatoes, our expert engineer, Christian Rubalcaba, I am merely Mark Ellis saying thanks. And if we're about to get into the holiday season, happy holidays, everyone. And to all a good night. Let's hold some faces. We'll work on that outro.